Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when no one's watching? This is an exploration of my new course or my new course that I want to share with people who are ready to basically deconstruct their social programming and the identities that other people have set for them and their lives and their careers and being, right? I find this topic so interesting, guys. I love it so much because it's the question by itself is already a full conversation. Who are you when no one is watching? For those who are new here, my name is Bianca Tusi. I am a creative. I'm a lover of arts, fashion, um, storytelling. I'm a lover of business, B2B. I focus on the German market and also focus on UK market. I'm a account manager, sales accounts as well. And yeah, I'm basically beyond my job description. This is how we express ourselves in society, right? We say, I am this is my job, I'm a professional law and blah 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 blah. I'm a fashion designer. Ha 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 ha. I am the this is how we express ourselves in society. But beyond all of my job descriptions, beyond all of my creative aspects and creative love for fashion, art, and everything, I am a force to be reckoned with. I'm a dynamic being. I am truly powerful. And I had to learn how to really deconstruct, who I am for society and for society's success about me versus the woman and the person I am when I'm with myself, man. I love this because it's very, very important to anchor that. And it's very important to really ask yourself that who are you besides your race, besides your gender, besides your job, besides the credibility that society has provided you with or that your family has provided you with? If you grew up in a very royal family, that's already who you are, right? I'm a royal priestess, which I am too. But the point is, besides all these notions, who are you when no one is watching? So let's talk about that in this video, and let's also just deconstruct this. And yeah, if you're new here, welcome. Share this with your friend, share this with your spiritual teacher, your mentor, share this with your boss. Because we are always constantly performing to be somebody in front of everybody. But even the boss, even the entrepreneur, even the creative, even heck, I don't want to be humorous here, but even spiritual leaders, man, they are somebody by themselves. They are very different to the conglomerate and the connections, that have that they build. So allow yourself to or figure out, this question like a nice law of physics, who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I don't have my phone around me? Speaking of phone, I literally don't have my phone around me, and this is something that I enjoy because when we look into our phones, we compare ourselves a lot. We look at people and we think, oh my gosh, she's got everything together. And you don't need that sometimes. Well, this is me, but definitely let's tap right in. I've got my notes. So let's talk about that, Let's talk about the fact that we love to portray our internal rhythm the moment we sense there's an audience, right? The moment we know somebody's watching us, what's that song? I got a feeling somebody's watching me, So we put a performance when somebody's watching us subconsciously and unconsciously. And in the other videos, part of the course of the art of unbecoming, I mentioned in the video, which I think I'm gonna click here. If you click here, it's called, how much of you is you versus how much of you is part of society, as well as the one of mimicry, right? How much are you copying and how much are you being original? these are all in relation to this topic. So if you again new and you're not sure what is she on about, please check those videos. They're part of the course and they're part of the art of unbecoming and socially deconstructing narratives that were not really who we are in the first place. So let's talk about science because we live in a world literally that loves science. We love science to the point of discovery. We love the science to the point of mastery. And we love science to the point of not really understanding it in reality. We love to have these notions of physics and quantum jumps and quantum leaps and quantum this and quantum that, but we have no sense of anchor to our being. In fact, everything that we've learned so far in society and humanity is really not helping you understand who you are. Think about it. Where in the world has all these things really helped you truly become who you are? You know, and so we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about science in such a way that is also part of our frequency and part of our personality. And that is called the quantum physics of personality. We are in a world that is filled with insanity, but we're also in a world that is filled with lies and influences and all these things of how we must quantum leap and how to jump into our next version of ourselves and how to become the best version of ourselves in the next 5 years. We are constantly quantum jumping, quantum leaping, basically jumping into versions and things and places, manifesting, but not really anchoring who we are. So I want to explore with you the effect, the observer effect, where the mere act of being noticed changes your baseline behavior and it changes your baseline frequency. The moment you know that somebody is watching you, you before you even think about it, you are also doing a quantum physics of personality. You're jumping into a certain new person. It's like, oh, I didn't know you noticed me. I didn't know you saw me. And before you know it, it's we can call it subconsciously, not being aware of it, but we do kind of, fix ourselves and we do kind of change our behavior frequency, for an audience and a performance of some kind, right? And it's really important to realize this in your reality. Where have you constantly changed your personality, and for who have you constantly changed your personality for? Have you changed it a lot for your friends? Have you changed it a lot for your family members? Have you changed it a lot for your companies, your jobs? It's not to say that in this video I'm expecting you to remain neutral throughout. Life is never a neutral dance, it's a wave, okay? And that's what frequency is as well. It's a wave, right? But to what extent are we constantly quantum jumping, quantum leaping in such a way where we are not grounded, right? And this is why I love this. I love physics, guys, but I also love spirituality. And spirituality is a frequency of physics in reality. I'll dive deeper into that in another video because we have been taught that things are not interconnected when they truly are. So let's explore who you are. Observe that. One, it's very important to observe what are your quantum physics of personalities. How many personalities do you have during the day? When you're with A, B, and C all day, And have you observed that effect on how it makes you feel, when you're with your husband, when you're with your wife, and then when you're with the boys and when you're with the girls? How much of that frequency and that personality do you have to keep up? Because let's be honest, sometimes it can be very draining to be with certain people, right? Because we have to act a certain way for them. And we're not realizing that that's a certain frequency that's maybe not aligned with our personality. So, to observe these kind of things is very important to really understand yourself, and to realize that in my second notes, it's really important to, once you've observed that first notion, to compare that to your natural state, to a compare our natural state to a private rehearsal. So, excuse me, since you've already observed that frequency of personality and that quantumness that we constantly do, I want you to now try and compare it to the natural state of who you are when you are in your living room, who you are when you're alone, who you are when you have just put down your phone, and who you are when you're just not having the greatest mood, and there's no society that's writing a script there, or there's no reel that is trying to capture this, or when there's no, Facebook image, there's no 30 likes behind your story, right? Who are you in your internal glory? And compare this not from a state of insecurity or a state of lack or a state of judgment, but more so like sit in yourself, right? In your most healed self, and see how many times have you privately rehearsed a narrative of what you should be when you're with public people, because we kind of do that. We have a private rehearsal that immediately turns into a performance once someone enters the room. Back to that thing like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, and then our posture changes, our pitch, for girls, it's always interesting. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Like, it's like we suddenly turn into a alt. What's that? Alto. Is it alto? Like, oh. Anyway, so I've noticed this with myself, right? I'm a very giggly person, and I'm still am. But I think over the years with different people, I've learned that being around their frequency is very toxic. It really brings the whole entire universe of my being down. And it also is important for me to compare who am I in my personal space, and when I went into this journey of really unbecoming, while trying to become as well, because it's very healthy to become somebody, but it's very important to deconstruct versions of ourselves. So that's why I call it the unbecoming, because it's really like, hang on, I need to just get rid of this filter here. I noticed the difference, right? Who I was with certain people was not really in alignment to my frequency and my personality. I'm very bubbly. I love laughing. I love light energy. I love good vibes. But at the same time, I'm not always in this good vibe myself. I want people around me that really love me even when I'm in my bitchy mode, because trust me, it is normal to not smile all the time. So, what I notice is when I saw my behavior baseline constantly changing to accommodate an audience or accommodate family members more than accommodating myself and my needs, this is when I realized that this quantum physics of personality, this is not good for me, because it's not anchoring me to my reality. The reality is right now I'm sad. Right now I'm healing. Right now I need support. So I cannot in this moment jump into a personality that fulfills your reality when I'm still trying to be a person that needs me in this moment right now. I hope you guys understood what I'm saying. Basically, how much of people pleasing are we doing in who we're becoming and who we are? How much of, being so alert to the point where we put on a facade for people, and we call this is who I am. We basically say I'm an extrovert, but in your reality and when you're alone, you actually like peace and quiet. You actually, that's your vibe. That's your frequency, but you cannot say that because you've created such a persona that people remember you on this high all the time. So I definitely challenge you to compare that. Compare your natural state to a private rehearsal that immediately turns into a performance whenever someone is in the room. Like, notice those habits that you do immediately. It's obviously, it's something to observe. It doesn't come overnight. It takes a while, But at the same time, while you're doing that, also analyze the anticipation of judgment, right? That is created through the psychological shift in posture, because we internalize a judgment of what are they going to say, that shock, right? Of now that somebody has seen you in your most authentic or most quiet moment of you being alone, that internal judgment of, oh my, what are they going to think about me, if they knew this version of me, right? I think this is very important sometimes, that the old self must die so that the new self must be born. We are constantly in amorphous, right? Metamorphosis. We're constantly morphing and we're constantly growing. So, yes, if you were like me, I was very extroverted, guys. I loved people so much to a point where I loved, like, I could be around them. But there comes a time where if you had too many peoples, it's all right to just unpeople sometimes and to be your own people. And so, yeah, I realized that through this morphosis, I'm more like I forgot the word, but it's so important to realize that you can't be the person you were when you were age 16. And you can't be the person you were when you had that first job and career. It's okay to shift. It's okay to move on. And it's okay to sing a new song. And so, this is why I say when we describe who we are based on what we do and what job we have, we are actually limiting ourselves because we're beyond that. Today, I may be um, a fashion designer, or I may be an account manager. But tomorrow, what? I may be somebody different. So now, does my whole being change because of my job description and what you remember me as? No. We really need to find an anchor that is still, I'm Bianca regardless of what job I have. I'm still Bianca regardless of what industry or career or creativity I go into. So this is the very same thing with you, is how much of the judgments, are created when you are constantly in this physiological shift in behavior patterns and in posture, and when people are around you. Are you still a lawyer, like, even when you're at home? Are you still a boss even when you're with a family? I mean, really, even the boss has to take down the boss personality and be a father and be a teacher and be a husband. You know, that's just the examples, right? We cannot carry our personality of jobs into our home environment. It's just not healthy. So, yeah, I think this is really important to just share because there comes a time where the death of the private self, it does die. And when it dies because of betrayal, it dies because of constant heartache, heartbreak. It dies because of digital presence, right? And it dies between the fine line between real life and content, right? What we are seeing in people's everyday social media, when they're posting their relationships and when they're posting their holidays and when they're posting their um, moments of success, that's not always who they are. That is content, guys. So we really need to understand, who are we, without all of that performance. And that is part of the understanding of the architecture of social masking, right? When we deconstruct the specific masks we wear for different audiences and how they fragment our core identity, we understand that, you know what, I've just worn a mask and I need to take it off. When I'm alone, I'm not always in my social energy. In fact, I want peace and quiet. In fact, I don't want disturbances. So, does that mean that I'm way different to what you know me as in a social setting? No. It just basically means that I have learned to be okay when there's no audience around me versus be okay as well when there is audiences, but also to learn how to deconstruct the performance that I must have when you're around versus when I'm alone. And I think this is very important to anchor with yourself. You do not always have to perform, and you do not always have to create a posture and a performance and a what did I call it here? A private rehearsal, when people enter a room. It's okay to just be having a bad day. It really is okay. But it's also very okay to be jolly at the same time. You see? So basically, from all of this, I would go deeper into saying once you have asked these questions when you're alone, once you have compared, once you have observed your quantum jumping of personalities, and once you have also just understood, the death that comes with your old self and your private self, definitely from all of that, reclaim the unvarnished core of who you are. Reclaim those moments that were not basically reclaim the weirdness of yourself when you're alone. Reclaim the content. I'm using the word content, that's not the right word. Reclaim the context of what you really love when you're alone and sit with it. Sit with it even in public. If you know you love to read alone and you love reading, take that essence with you and sit in a restaurant. Challenge yourself to be okay with merging, this differences, so that you don't lose aspects of what makes you beautiful and what makes you really safe and beautiful. I think we live in a world where we are kind of told to always be extroverted because that's how we get ahead in life. But honestly, guys, you can be both. You can be both. You can be also introverted. There's nothing wrong with that. And we need to realize that when people are trying to create scripts for you, they're basically trying to tell you what you must be and how you must act and how you must, behave. And yes, there's a timing and place for that, definitely. But also, when we are talking specifically about identity and personality, there should be no script because this is where you really just learn your character. You learn your character building. You learn the different personalities that you put on. We are not the same person when we are being interviewed, right? That's a different posture. We sit a different way because we are basically trying to become into this new role. We are trying to show our best selves. But that does not mean that's how I sit when I'm with my friend and like, yeah, no. So my weaknesses, oh my gosh, my strengths. We don't speak like that, from a normal, no, the day-to-day conversation. So yeah, I hope you understood this a lot. I love this concept because it's really about that. It's about just that question. Who are you when no one is watching? And exploring the unbecoming of this reality and these constructs, right? And to never betray yourself. Do not betray your internal rhythm just to fulfill an audience or to fulfill those around you. Be anchored with yourself, even if you are changing your personality for the room, but still be anchored. Even if you're changing your career, still be anchored in who you are. And I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.